Pemerintah terus bergerak dalam proses pemindahan ibu kota negara ke Kalimantan Timur.
Rencana pemindahan ibu kota bukan hanya terkait pertimbangan sosial, ekonomi, dan politik saja, namun aspek hukumnya pun harus ditelaah.
Pembangunan kota Nusantara sebagai ibu kota baru menuai banyak kritik.
Ibu kota negara Nusantara dinilai akan membebani keuangan negara.
Kalau ibu kota kita pindah, apakah simpul NKRI ini masih tetap utuh?
Presiden Jokowi telah menandatangani Undang-Undang Nomor 3 Tahun 2022 tentang Ibu Kota Negara atau Undang-Undang IKN pada hari Selasa 15 Februari 2022.
Hello viewers, I hope you are doing well. So welcome to the legal discussion program with me, Michelle Bagas Estetika Sianipar, serving as your MC for today. In this video, we will discuss about a topic has grown become more controversial in past new years in Indonesia and still be discussed till right now, which is moving of Indonesia's capital city from Jakarta to Kalimantan and the building of Ibu Kota Nusantara or IKN. IKN has been a new trending topic in Indonesia, not because the budgeting or the law against it, but also we will discuss about the effect affecting the people who live in Kalimantan Timur and the government itself. So today discussion will be attended by Group 3 directors. So please pay your attention and enjoy the discussions. Okay, now we are having our group members. There are Jovan, Aska, Zahra, and also Chelsea. It's nice to meet you all for this session.
Hello.
Okay, because this is a legal discussion, this is the first thing that we have to know is our topic, isn't it? So today we are going to discuss about IKN. Surely we are surprised by the news about the moving of our national capital, which has sparked a question in all of us. What's the reason, or rather the urgency behind this decision made by Indonesia's government? This decision must be needed a constitutive reason and justifies this urgency became a national wild project. So Jovan, what do you think about this project?
Okay, alright Michelle, thanks for the space. So actually, the fundamental reason for this project stems from the fact that Jakarta has been carrying a heavy burden on the shoulders from being the center of government, economy, and national symbol. Issues like floods, traffic jam, a clean water crisis, as well as land subsidence have made Jakarta fall into a condition that could be called an urban planning emergency. With the moving of our nation's capital, the government aims to create a new government center that is more organized, as well as to realize the equitable distribution of the national development concept.
However, we must agree that a transparent fact that the project is this big will bring much risks, whether it from the financials or maybe environmental issues about our national, rather in the long-term societal effects. What do you think?
I agree. However, if we look at the bright side of this program, it actually shows the stability of Indonesia along with its national resilience. With this project, we could be able to re-upload aspects of development that were previously neglected due to COVID-19 pandemic. Although, this does not rule out the possibility that this project could eventually bring a significant impact on the people of Indonesia.
Alright, I got your point. Although it seems that this project may be proposed with the noble reasons and the goodwill of heart of our government towards Jakarta, it seems though there is a controversy behind these issues. Alright, dear viewers, so before we going further, it is rather crucial for us to first discuss about the laws and regulations that are the foundation of this major project run by our government. So, I would like to ask you, Aska, what do you make of and what do you think the making of the legal backing behind this IKN project?
Okay, so as written, the development of IKN is based on Undang-Undang Number 3 of the year 2022 regarding the nation's capital or UU IKN. Not only this law regulates the moving of the capital city, but also serves to establish the authority of IKN as a special institution to manage the area. The authority being given to IKN could be classified as very broad, starting from special arrangement, licensing matters, all the way to land management and investment cooperation. If we take a look at Article 5, Chapter 4, UU IKN, it states that the authority of IKN serving as the head of the main regional governance of IKN has an equal position to that of a minister. Here we could discuss further on what this institutional position will be like in our government system, especially taking note of the fact that IKN's authority has an equal position to that of a minister while not actually being a ministry. So, functionally speaking, IKN's authority is to manage a region that is supposed to serve as a local government, but structurally speaking, IKN is not a province, not a city, nor it is a regency, which means that they're aiming to run the function of local government, but not in the ways that we are familiar with in the past.
So, the management is similar to the local government, but it's built different.
Yes, that's right. And this topic is still debated to this day, also because the leader of the project, who is the head of IKN's authority, is not chosen democratically. The head of IKN's authority is chosen directly by the President of Indonesia and not elected democratically by the people, like regional head elections in general. Which then sparks another question on whether or not the number of votes from local residents can actually become a consideration when taking this big of a decision.
That's absolutely right, Aska. From that, we could agree that this is not only the matter of moving the capital city, but also the matter of the government system that is rather different from what it used to be. Of course, with a point of administration that is just as complicated as it seems.
Yes, of course, yeah. And if we take the time to reflect on other countries that have moved their capital city before, like Russia and Brazil, they have shown a rather complicated administrative adversity. And I'm very sure that Indonesia won't be able to pull through when served with similar administrative complication in the middle of other laws and constitution that requires the same level of priority in this country.
I adore your great way of thinking, Aska.
Thank you.
This matter clearly needs more attention because our country is one based on constitutions. So following this, there are still other debates and discussion that needs to be addressed regarding IKN. Okay, this time we will discuss about the issue that just as important as the law regulation that regulates the project of IKN. As we know, the location of IKN itself is right in the area of East Kalimantan, tropical rainforest. This has become a major concern. Indonesia is well known as the rich tropical rainforests, some which are recognized by UNESCO as the World Heritage Site. Am I correct?
That's absolutely right, Michelle. Your grasp of the literature is impressive. Indonesia truly has an enormous wealth of forest resources. In fact, Indonesia has a specific regulations governing this matter, namely Undang-Undang Nomor 32 Tahun 2009 tentang perlindungan dan pengelolaan lingkungan hidup. This shows that Indonesia values the existence of nature and protects it through a clear legal framework.
But isn't it strange? With this large-scale development like a new capital city built in an area that actually being protected by constitutions?
This is also a question that often sparks debate. According to the provisions of the IKN law, the new capital is said to adopt an environmentally friendly development model while promoting the new concept of a forest city. Naturally, this has generated controversy, especially among the environmental activists, academics, communities who are closely connected to nature. Based on several sources, the government claims that only about 30% of the total land area will be used for the development of Nusantara as the new capital.
Alright, so that means remaining 70% stays as forest. But doesn't it implies that the 30% of the land is being deforestation will be happen anyway because this project Indonesia has already lost around 25% of their protected forest since 1919 because ongoing deforestation that's still remaining till now, whether it's caused by government or maybe a private sector activities. What do you think?
But that percentage is still considered quite small, isn't it?
Of course not, Jovan. With such a large land area, that 30% alone is almost equivalent to the size of an entirely new district. In addition, Undang-Undang Nomor 32 Tahun 2009 tentang Perlindungan dan Pengelolaan Lingkungan Hidup sets a mandatory standard in the form of an assessment that evaluates both direct and indirect environmental impact of any development project, known as AMDAL. According to the timeline, the legislation concerning IKN was passed even before the AMDAL assessment was carried out. This naturally drew public criticism regarding the environmental safety and due diligence process of the IKN project.
That certainly poses a real threat after all. So how does the transparency come into play regarding this issue?
This issue still remains quite unclear. The government argues that conducting an AMDAL assessment requires a very large budget. However, this should be non-negotiable because every major project must undergo an environmental impact review. Even in the constitution, Indonesia places strong value on the existence of nature as a blessing from God that must be protected and preserved. Up until now, the implementation of AMDAL remains a bit questionable. According to the Tempo magazine, the government has been reluctant to disclose the AMDAL results, despite the fact that the assessment was carried out using funds invested by various investors from across Asia for the IKN project.
Wow! It turns that the environmental issues caused by this project is more complex than it was.
Alright, here I would like to add a little bit more information regarding a subject that is tied closely with the new nation's capital, Kalimantan, which is the existence of indigenous communities.
Oh, really? What happened with that? Sounds interesting though.
So first and foremost, I would like to share some insights regarding the legal protection of indigenous people in Indonesia. So, indigenous communities' rights are directly protected under Undang-Undang Dasar 1945 Indonesia, specifically in Article 18B, Paragraph 2, where it states that the country recognizes and respects customary law communities and their traditional rights as long as they remain alive and in accordance with the development of society and the principles of the United Republic of Indonesia as regulated by law. In the area where the new nation's capital, IKN, is built, there are still many indigenous communities residing there. Contrary to what the government claims, the new area where the new capital city is being built is not entirely made up of trees or forests. There are many recorded indigenous communities that not only have lived there for years, but also depend on it for their livelihoods as well as for their cultural needs.
Okay, but what's happening with IKN being in the midst of indigenous communities?
Sadly, in the territory of IKN, there are still very few recorded numbers of indigenous people who have completed papers and documents for land ownership. Namely, only 31% of those lands are controlled by the people, whereas the remaining 66% of land plots are only physically controlled, but they've yet to have the complete and clear ownership documents.
So, what could be the negative impacts of this?
So in IKN, there surely will be factories such as mining and plantation factories that need land. Now, from the numbers presented before, there's still a high number of land owned by indigenous people that are still undocumented and unclear. The businesses running these companies will definitely have the upper hand, where they could end up marginalizing and even moving the indigenous communities and people from their own homeland to make up room for the building of these companies.
Gosh, in this case, so the positions of these indigenous communities in IKN are very weak despite they are being at their home before the IKN project.
That's correct. Because these businesses will certainly have more legal power, this could threaten the existence of indigenous communities and their native culture there.
Okay, in this matter, our government, through the state of government, should play a bigger role in protecting the right of the indigenous people, as mandated in our Undang-Undang Dasar 1945.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, viewers, so it turns out the polemic of the IKN project carries both advantages and disadvantages, along with the several controversies that maybe feel unfamiliar for us. Some argue that this project strengthens Indonesia's standing and dignity over the global stage, while others believe that this is a project that undermines the nation itself, and shaped by the layer of bureaucracy and influenced by varying political pressure from different fractions within the parliament.
Exactly, I agree. Indonesia can actually become a highly developed nation without having to rely on the construction of IKN for legitimacy. Looking at Indonesia's current condition, there are many responsibilities that the government must carry out, especially through law enforcement and legal certainty, so that every issue within society can be addressed with proper and reliable solutions.
In truth, Aska, law is a product of politics, and politics can never be separated from the influence of law. That's why, if we want a better Indonesia and in the future, even through the lens of IKN project, we can clearly see how politics play an essential role in maintaining stability and safeguarding the nation itself. A major project like this should not become a political weapon that ultimately fails to serve the people instead. It risks turning into a burden that harms the very society that it is meant to benefit.
Yes, this time I completely agree with all of you. The government's intention to advance the nation is actually something we should acknowledge as positive. But if it isn't accompanied by proper management and strong oversight, all of those good intentions could end up being meaningless.
Alright then, so it seems that everyone enjoys and understood the issues and taken an active part in today's discussion, right?
Wow, you all really show great integrity as law students.
Alright viewers, so that's all our conclusion for discussion today. Thank you so much for everyone who taking parts of this conversation, and I hope today's discussion not only incites our curiosity about IKN, also become a space for us for keep thinking critically as a law student. So, I'm Michelle Bagas Estetika Sianipar, sign out from your MC for today's discussion. Goodbye!
Goodbye!